The battle for the mind of North America will be fought in the video arena.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, how you guys are doing? I just realized a major glitch on the intro. The red part should not be there, but that's probably the grace of doing video editing right at last minute.
Well, it's still there right now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings me so many good memories, right? With all the freedom stuff back in Ottawa. That was amazing to see. So that was amazing. So, well, thanks for coming out, guys. Max here. I'm going to moderate with Benita as well with the stream today. And I can tell you right now, we're picking up steam very effectively. Thanks, Kerry, for being with us today. Thanks, James. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Oh,
I'm happy to be
fantastic. I like your T-shirt.
James looks very relaxed.
Of course.
And thanks, Jeevan, as well. Jeevan as well too.
Hang on.
Anytime. Most welcome.
Yes. So fantastic. So the topic of this so what we're going to talk today is about kind of like the results from the last election. I already knew what was going to happen with the elections over there, that we're going to have a liberal majority or minority government, and because of that, the urge for independence is gonna kick in very, 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 very quickly. Sometimes in those freedom community groups that we have across the province and across Canada, for some reason, people they just jump on conclusions by emotion. So what I'm trying to do is to cut the nose from my emotion and to look at things perhaps more. To think about things more rationally and moving things ahead in a more structured way, because at the end of the day, we only had one chance to do it, and this is the only chance we have to do to achieve Western independence, perhaps joining for other provinces as well too, and that's the topic of discussion today. So before doing that, I want to show you something really quick, which is the rally for Alberta independence. That's gonna be in Edmonton. I'm just going to show the screen a little bit. One of the speakers today, Mr. Jeevan, is going to talk about this event tonight. So this is the event that will be held at the Edmonton Legislature on May the 3rd, which is a Saturday, from 1 to 3 p.m. Michael Wagner is going to be there. Jeevan how do you say Mangat?
Yes.
Mangat. Jeevan Magnet's going to be there. Bill Jones. David Lekowski and John Bolton. John Bolton is very active on YouTube today, these days, especially about Western independence. And and I watched one of the clips that he aired today, and he was talking about a lot about what's happening right now and how basically having a liberal government is going to kickstart the independence movement. But as he said, the intention is to show basically a way of doing things more effectively and not necessarily rush into emotions, because one of the problems that we have in the freedom community, as I mentioned, is that a lot of people rush in emotions and people get disorganized, and that's not what we want. Benita, I think you're muted.
She is muted.
I'm muted. Thank you, Max. I'd like to speak to that for a moment.
Sure.
Emotions are actually very useful. This is the perfect time to recruit people for this movement. And another thing I love about the Alberta Independence Movement is there are multiple groups working on this. It's not just one, it's a lot. My favorite group, and I think the largest group, is the Alberta Prosperity Project. And hence, we've got at least one guest from the Alberta Prosperity Project today. But Max, in the meantime, with regards to the poster you're showing on screen, and my understanding is that's not an Alberta Prosperity Project event.
It is not.
For the independence of Alberta. Is it possible you could zoom in, Max, so we could all see those details better? And by the way, everybody, this event that's happening this Saturday, May 3rd, at the Alberta Legislature grounds, one of the people involved in this event is here today, Jeevan, and he's going to be speaking a little bit. So yeah, zoom in on that again. Who are the other presenters again, Max?
They have the list. Michael Wagner, very, very, very smart guy, by the way. I have many of his books here. Michael Wagner is going to be there. David Likowski, Bill Jones, and John Bolton, who is a very known YouTuber, and he rants about Western independence as well as the mess on which the liberals put him back in. Right?
It's going to be an awesome event.
Oh yeah, I'll be there for sure, and I'm working very hard to record this event, especially with my new equipment I got. It's going to be fantastic. I'm excited to put this thing on the field. It's going to be freaking awesome. I got some comments in here. I got some people from North Edmonton. That's fantastic.
Yeah, Max, let me just interrupt for a second.
Sure.
I agree with Benita.
Sure.
Elections and the independence movement is all about emotions because I mean, there is logic, definitely logic being applied. I can present a lot of arguments logically why we should be independent. But what's really driving the movement now, and this happened in the late 70s and early 80s as well, is people are very emotionally tied to Alberta and they wish to decouple from Quebec and Ottawa. It's their emotions driving them to it.
And
absolutely.
With those emotions, it's the perfect time to recruit people. My understanding is the Alberta Prosperity Project website is the best website to go to right now if you support the Alberta independence movement. There very well may be other websites, but my understanding is that website's getting flooded right now with interest. So right now is the perfect time to send more people to that website, because then eventually it isn't just about signing up, it's about volunteering and doing the work. So let's make those emotions work for us. Whatever the emotion is, the emotion might be anger, it might be frustration, it might be fear, whatever that emotion is, let's get those people signing up to be part of the Alberta independence movement.
Yeah, and I'm just going to show you the website imprint that Benita is referencing to. I'm just going to show this thing here. So if you want to go under the website, go to albertaprosperityproject.com. There is a banner on the bottom of the screen. And so you go to the albertaprosperityproject.com, and the petition is here, registered to intend to sign yes on a referendum with our sovereignty today. Maybe, Kerry, we can talk about that, what it is, but I want to let the floor and give the floor to, Jeevan. I'm sorry with the names. I'm very bad with the names because I want to talk about this particular event, because what's happening right now is that on the Freedom Canada's website, this is the stat from the election. So the election started when we got the results from the election, right about here where I don't know if people can see my mouse or anything, but this is where things are really picking up. We have 390 visits in a matter of 24 hours who are looking at the freedomcanada.net just for that event alone. That means numbers, guys.
I can tell you right now that APP has had about 1,000 signups an hour since the election.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is really picking up. So expect a full house. So why don't you just going to talk about that specific event, and just try me just give us some information about that event, because that looks juicy, dude. That looks juicy.
Yeah, yes, Max. So this event, we were just, a bunch of volunteers, really. And we're from different parties. So this is a nonpartisan event. And we were thinking, okay, the election's coming. It could go either way. What should we be doing? How can we further the movement? And APP does a fantastic job of writing about different types of policies, what the advantages. I mean, nobody else does it better than the APP. And I visit their websites to get information all the time. Now, as we were sitting talking amongst ourselves, somebody came up with an idea. Well, let's do a rally after the election. And then we tossed around the idea: should we do it 2 weeks later, or just a few days after that? And it was decided. Well, why don't we just choose a Saturday? Weekday may be better because the MLAs are in the house, the premier's in the house. We thought Saturday because I was at another event about a year ago in Red Deer, and people drove from Lethbridge to be at this event to talk about independence. And that event was only for 2 hours. And these people drove from Lethbridge, and then they drove back. And then I talked to many others. They had driven for 3 hours away. So we decided Saturday would be the best, okay? Because if people have to travel from out of town, they have time and they don't have to give up their daily jobs. And then we decided, okay, we only know a few people. Who can we get to speak at this rally about Alberta independence? Why do we need independence? Why are we seeking independence? People had different views. And right away, I knew Michael Wagner. And I've talked to him many times. I've been to events where, his books are available. I've got 2 of his books. I still have to buy his 3rd book. And I said, well, Michael Wagner would be the first choice because the history of separation. And I was growing up in Alberta when in the late 70s, early 80s, when the National Energy Program was introduced, similar to what's happening now by the Liberals again. And let me remind people, as much as Eastern Canada loves Pierre Trudeau, in my opinion, he was one of the worst prime ministers we've ever had. He changed Canada from 1968 onwards with policies such as bilingualism. He carried on with supply management, and the National Energy Program came in. And within a week, people left Alberta. I know people sold their homes for $1 because we had assumable mortgages. And they were trying to destroy the prosperity of Alberta. And that's the time, I just finished college, and that's the time I became really thinking about independence, and it just carried on and on and on. So we decided, okay, Michael Wagner would be the first speaker. Then we had Bill Jones. He's delivered some speeches on achieving independence. He's a political theorist. He's an entrepreneur, and he's an economist, and he lives in Edmonton. So he was available. And then we...
really? That's awesome.
Yeah. Then I talked to, these aren't household names that we're getting because we don't have any money. We're trying to manage this rally to the least cost. So we couldn't pay any highly paid speakers. So all these people are coming on strictly as volunteers. And David Laskowski is somebody I've known for the last few months. He was involved in the merging of the Conservative Party to the Reform Party. He's been a political activist since 1982. He has studied the 1931 Statute of Westminster. He is very knowledgeable about the politics of Canada, very knowledgeable about Alberta separation. And when I called him, he had no doubt that he would love to attend. So he put his name forward.
Nice.
Yes. Then am I missing anybody? Myself, there's 4 of us, right?
Actually, Dennis joined in.
Dennis. Hi, Dennis.
Hello, we're talking to you. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
I thought you were busy, but thank you are. Thanks.
Dennis is not feeling all that well either, so
that's okay. That's fine. That's completely fine. But then,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeevan.
Okay, then David Laskowski knows Grant Abraham. Now, Grant Abraham is a lawyer, and I think Dennis Modry knows of it too. He's been involved in international development, and he's going to talk about the path forward for Alberta. So we have a diverse group, and we're all, giving up our time to be in Edmonton that day and talk about independence and how to move forward. So, I mean, one of our historians is Dennis Modry. He can tell you lots about from 1905 when it all started.
He's not that old.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, but this is an event that we'll definitely want to see by myself. It's going to be at the Legislative Building downtown Edmonton. So that's going to be fantastic. My suggestion is to plan things ahead and not show up at 1 p.m., probably a few hours earlier, because it's going to be jam-packed. I was just reading out the comments here, and this is something that Kerry and Dennis can elaborate on, that aspect of what's the legal requirements of doing a referendum. But I just wanted to check, James, what do you think about all of this?
So I've been listening there, Jeevan. I love what you just said there. One thing I do want to bring up is absolutely Albertans want to be independent, but especially in the last 24 hours, I've been contacted nonstop. I had to mute my phone for this. Mm-hmm. And people from out east even, begging to be able to seek asylum here in Alberta.
Oh, yeah.
And everything else. Like it's this movement is not just about Alberta. This is about Albertans coming together and taking a leadership for the next steps of Canada. I think after Alberta does its thing in a referendum, I think you're going to see a lot of other provinces following suit. I truly believe that Albertans are leaders in this country. We have been for many years. And I think it's just a first step in something huge that's about to take off here.
Yes.
That's number one.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a matter of... Go ahead.
My next point here, we're talking about how, you guys aren't paid. You guys are taking your time out to do this stuff and all that. That's a grassroots movement. I remember back in 2022 when we did the convoy, it was 100% grassroots movement, and that's why we got the traction on it. It wasn't a paid party. It wasn't people having to dish out of their pocket to go see an event. It was literally anybody could show up, anybody can go. And the people that are going to this event and speaking on it, they're doing it out of their hearts. And that's something that Canadians, Albertans especially, want to see.
Yes, and you're right. I'll just give you an example because when I was, and I talked to a lot of strangers, James, about independence in coffee shops, gas stations. Somehow the topic of independence just comes up. And sometimes, they say, yeah, we'll vote for independence if you get Saskatchewan. And my reply to that all the time is somebody has to start. If you don't start, then those are just words in your head. That's and right. There's no action. So, this is why it's got to be an action. And if we start, you're right. Others will come along.
100%.
I just want to reiterate to the point that James was talking about. I know that based on statistics, there is a lot of people from New Brunswick and Nova Scotia watching this stream right now. And who are looking at the website, I saw a whole bunch of IP addresses from MTS, Bell Alliant, all from New Brunswick and Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. And so we're not alone. We're not alone.
They may be looking at that because a lot of their spouses probably work in the oil patch.
Yes.
True.
Right? And so they're a little concerned about what's actually going to be happening in Alberta too. And I think we were quick to kind of dismiss the whole East as being red yesterday, and I was probably one of those as well. But again, it's one of those weird things that, first of all, we don't know whether or not that is the whole election thing is actually true and whatever. There's so many conspiracies out there, but let's just assume that everything was legit, copacetic, et cetera, et cetera. And if we're seeing the numbers that are coming from Eastern Canada, I think the reason they're pro-government, pro-current government, is because they get a lot of handouts to them. right? And I think they're afraid of not being able to get those handouts anymore.
Yep.
And so we've really got this east-west thing going on here, and of course we're looking at it from our own little bubble of Western Canada, and especially from Alberta and Saskatchewan. And I think we really do have to kind of take an overall picture and say, because this is something that we've talked on the Alberta Prosperity Project about, is, you know, people are, when they're in crowds, they follow whoever seems to be the louder person there. And in saying that, what I'm trying to say is that when people are, when you talk to them individually about things like about separation, when you talk to them individually, they're more inclined to agree with you or even open up to you versus being in a crowd. They don't want to be the standout in the crowd, right? And I think what ended up happening yesterday is they all of a sudden, just like in the convoy, they go, these were thoughts that I had all the way through this, but I don't want to talk to my neighbors about it because they're going to ostracize me because I'm the only one that thinks about it. And yet here we are right now. My phone has blown up. I'm not a big social media guy on my own personal page. I view things and I'll post one thing it feels like once a month. And anybody that is my social media friend will know that. However, on the Chris Kerry Show, the Whistle Stop Cafe, we're constantly posting stuff. So a lot of the people that are my friends didn't realize that I was even involved in Alberta Prosperity Project or that I had a voice in doing this. And it was amazing how many people reached out to me today to send me, you got to join this APP. I think you're politically involved. You should look into it. Like, really? Right? So these are people that don't know me in terms of this, and they're now reaching out to me. So if they're reaching out to me, they're reaching out to all their other friends as well. And like I said, APP, if we're getting 1,000 new signups or at least 1,000 new visitors an hour since, for the last 24 hours, this thing is just going to take off.
Yeah. And in regards to that, I just wanna double check I just wanna give the space to either Kerry and Dennis about the legal process, because I know that Daniel Smith was talking about this new legislation we're going to talk about later, but I saw a clip from Kerry Morgan that just surfaced like this afternoon. Actually, was very, very fresh new. I just want to double check, guys, if with Dennis and Kerry, what is this step like? If you were to start the process of separation from Alberta, from Canada, what is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4?
Dennis, you want to start with that?
Well, I can. Do you want to give it a shot, Kerry, or you want me to start?
Well, I mean, I can certainly start. We've been involved with, Dennis is one of the founders of APP, and initially it was the Alberta Unity Project, and that was kind of before the convoy. And then once we got back from the convoy, and there was such an ignition of what can we do to educate Albertans, the APP was born, and we continued the message. I'll say, and Dennis will agree, maybe a slightly softer message. Instead of full independence, we said sovereignty, and the sovereignty within United Canada Act is kind of the way that we were looking at it. But it's amazing how much things have changed in the last little while. So, of course, the question is, what does it take to actually get this done? So, the legislation right now has said, and I'll just say it the way it was a few hours ago, I guess. We needed a certain percentage of voters in order to sign a citizens' initiative. And with that particular number, if we were looking at, say, 3 million people that were actually voters, we would need 20%. So roughly 600,000 signatures. But you had to collect those within 90 days. Well, you can imagine, what would it take to get 600,000 signatures within 90 days? You go all the hockey games and all the sporting events, anything, you will never get that number. So Dennis and APP had this great idea. Why don't we, instead of going out and collecting the signatures right away, why don't we amass a contact list of people that are agreeing with this, so that when the time comes, we'll be able to, physically go knock on their doors, or we can say, meet us at the local mall or community center, and then get physical wet signatures. So that's kind of the idea, is that we're amassing this 600,000 list in order for us to say, this is the process that we're going to go through. However, and again, 600,000 and within 90 days. Today, Daniel Smith announced that things will actually change a little bit. So we're doing 10% of the people that voted, or the number of people that voted in the last election, which was about 1.7 million people. So 10% of that is about 170,000. So it's actually 177,000 according to this.
I just pulled the tweet. I just pulled
And
Daniel
likewise,
Smith's tweet.
instead of being within 90 days, she's extended it to 120 days. Now, I know Dennis will also talk a little bit more about this, but the other requirement is that we have to have a certain number, a certain threshold in all constituency associations, or all ridings. So there's 87 in Alberta, and so we have to have a certain threshold in that. But essentially, she's lowered the number. She's extended the time available for us to go out and collect those physical signatures. So now is the time where, if you're watching this video, you should be going to the Alberta Prosperity Project and signing up, and you should be retweeting it to your 10 of your friends. I'm just going to say 10. On the initiative that we have through Alberta Prosperity Project, we say 5. But you know what? Now the fire's under your ass. You gotta get numbers out there. So let's say 10 people, send it out to that. The whole idea behind that is just to sign up for it. We would like everybody to vote yes on it, but in order to get the numbers up, we have to have at least 177,000. We're hoping for at least 200,000 people signed up. Dennis, does that make sense to you?
Yeah. In fact,
so kind of, Mitch sent me this just a few minutes ago.
Okay.
At 6:31. Since 9 o'clock last night, we've had 42,000 new signups.
Wow, that's more than 1,000 per hour.
Wow. Wow.
42,000 since 9 o'clock last night. So Albertans are
Eager.
They're eager, but they've recognized for some time now that under a Liberal government, Alberta's fortunes can never be any better. Unfortunately, many of those people didn't really recognize that they won't be much better under a Conservative government either, because there's no ability to change the Constitution in any meaningful way, if changing it at all, because of the hurdles to change the Constitution. And so, as Kerry pointed out, who is one of the founders of the Alberta Prosperity Society and Project, I'm really delighted with the point that we are at now, with an incredibly motivated operational team. And I think that we're going to hit the 200,000 threshold probably far faster than I would have even predicted before. And why is that? Because basically Carney is like kerosene that's just been poured on the flame of Alberta sovereignty. And so it's just burst like crazy. But to Kerry's point, once we have a successful petition that obligates the provincial government to hold this referendum on Alberta sovereignty, it's up to the provincial government to determine the timing. But I'm thinking that the timing of the midterm municipal elections might be ideal. That sort of coincides with the referendum to end equalization in 2021 as well, as in the midterm. So it's a natural time. People are going to the polls for municipal votes, and in a way, when you consider polling, how accurate is the polling? What do we really know about the polling? And in this era of cancel culture, I think that many people don't divulge who they're voting for, and so you don't get necessarily a true picture. But as a proxy for Alberta sovereignty, I just pose this as a question to the audience and to the group, to the panel. Could it be that the equalization referendum, where 62% of Albertans voted to end equalization, could that be a proxy for the number of people that would vote to leave Canada, to vote for Alberta sovereignty? And I think it's possible. I can't say that categorically. I just think
Good
that's
question.
a possible outcome. And the other little piece of evidence to maybe suggest that is if you look at the U.S. election, there wasn't really a prediction that Trump and the Republican Party was going to win. And if they were going to win, there were a couple of polls that suggested that they were going to win, but certainly none with a massive landslide like it was. So we may, where am I going with this? We may be closer to a successful referendum, or closer to a plurality that would support Alberta sovereignty than we think from the polls. I think that's an important point to consider, but it doesn't mean that we should be complacent and think that we've won this. We definitely don't know that at all. But for those people who want to be less governed, less regulated, less taxed, less controlled in every aspect of your life, to get out from under the thumb of the federal government, this is the only solution, is for Alberta to become a sovereign nation. And I like to think Saskatchewan will be there along with us. And so the Alberta Prosperity Project is working diligently now to try and get to that plurality that we need to, of people who have registered their intent to vote in favor of sovereignty on the petition, and then we'll see where that goes. So it's going to be a full court press for the next couple of months, and we'll see where it goes. I'm going to be kind of intrigued to see what the UCP government, I understand, is going to have a caucus retreat this Friday to discuss how they're going to handle the results of the election. Well, we know how they should handle the result of the election, and it's for the premier. I've said, do you want to be the premier of the, actually I said a minion premier subjugated by the federal government, and I'm not suggesting that would be her at all, because she has definitely had the rhetoric to oppose the federal government, but rhetoric is one thing, action is another thing. And so we need to see the action for sure. And I think it's there within her. I just don't know if her caucus will let her do what I think she may want to do. We'll only see. Time will tell. But the legal process, of course, is to trigger the Clarity Act. And although it states in the Clarity Act, in the fourth paragraph of the preamble, last line, that negotiations might lead to secession, other aspects of the Clarity Act contemplate that, if you're going to have a referendum on secession, you have to mean it, and that's what you're after, and it's not negotiations for a better deal within Canada. And so my feeling very strongly is that the outcome of a successful referendum is simply that the negotiations are the terms of the outcome of Alberta becoming a separate nation. So in other words, what would we be negotiating? We'd be negotiating, well, what happens to the pension plan? What happens to the debt? What happens to military, et cetera, et cetera.
And other plans and other areas of federal jurisdictions like telecommunications, infrastructure.
Well, we
that sort of thing.
we don't want, I mean, as a sovereign nation, we don't want the federal government to control
No.
any aspect of us, but it may be,
No, absolutely.
it may be that they're, by design, i.e. trade and agreements, there may be some common cause that will have to be discussed. And remember, that is not our obligation. Our obligation is to get the government, the provincial government, into a position where they have a successful referendum behind them, and for which they are able to declare Alberta is a sovereign nation. And by the way, it will be recognized immediately by the United States once that successful referendum takes place. So,
Absolutely.
so that's where we're at, and I truly am delighted to see the massive uptick in membership and supporters, that have taken place since the results of the election. I think it's truly remarkable, and I think it's going to grow.
Absolutely.
The question in my mind right now is, can we hit the 200,000 target in a week or 2 weeks or 3 days or what? I just don't know, But if you extrapolate 42,000 since 9 o'clock, we may be done by this weekend, at that rate, So I'm kidding a little bit, but I don't know, maybe I'm not, because I just don't know, how quickly we will achieve the threshold. But that's just one aspect, is getting to the point of forcing the referendum. The other bigger job is to convince a plurality of eligible voters to vote in favor of Alberta sovereignty. And so you can consider that there's going to be about 2.9 million eligible voters for this next for the referendum. And I'm thinking that we need probably 1.5, 1.6 million at least.
At least a good margin of error, actually.
Well, a good margin of error, yeah. And if we hit 2/3 of eligible voters, wouldn't that state something? I mean, that would be very empowering for the provincial government and for Albertans. And the funny thing about all of this is the people that oppose Alberta sovereignty are basically opposed to improving their lot in life and the lot in life of their families. They're opposed to having greater freedom and prosperity, and I don't understand that, except for the fact that there are those out there that truly want bigger government and more control of their wealth and affairs, and that's exactly what they're going to get with Carney and the Liberal government. And so we have a unique opportunity right here. And I see Cheryl Turner has said, where do we sign? Well, just go to the albertaprosperityproject.com, albertaprosperityproject.com website, become a member if you can, make a small contribution, but more important is register your contact information so that it's time to have the petition. That's what you need to do. And one other thing that's important to understand is that in this era of cancel culture, we knew what happened with the truckers' convoy and accounts were frozen. At the Alberta Prosperity Project, we do not divulge the names of anybody who makes a contribution or who registers to support the petition. And because we don't give out tax receipts, we have no obligation to release that information to CRA either. So this is
smart move.
This is important for people to understand. This is exactly what the Canadian Taxpayers Federation does, and same thing with the Alberta Institute as well. So that's the way we set this up, and to make it safe for everybody, and they don't have to worry about cancel culture.
Well, thanks you very much to elaborate that. That's gonna be one of the things I'm gonna have to clip into my video editing, I guess. Like when I do my montage, I'm gonna take some clips of all this stream and put into 10-minute pieces. That would be fantastic. Jeevan and Benita, they have questions, and then I'll go to James because I got a question for him too.
Right.
Yeah, but Benita first.
Dennis, thanks for your message. I'm feeling so excited about this. I want to help get more signatures at that AlbertaProsperityProject.com website. I love these online meetings. I love the in-person event we're going to have this Saturday and the other in-person events. But I actually have a special plan. I plan to go door to door in my town of Westlock. And what I have figured out is I'm planning to run for Westlock Town Council. And I have figured out a way to multitask, and I'm going to go door to door, door knocking with a team of wonderful people. I'll do some training with you. We're going to go door to door. We'll let people know I'm running for town council. We'll chit chat with them. And then we're going to ask them, what did you think of the outcome of that last federal election? And then we'll see what they say. And if they seem somewhat warm to us, either they or we will bring up the subject of Alberta independence, and we'll figure out where they're at on that. And I plan on having people take very specific records on this. So every person we interact with will figure out if they're warm to the concept of Alberta independence, if they're cold, if they're excited. And we're going to keep good records on this as we go door to door. So my first session door to door is May 13th, 14th, and 15th. We're going to do training in door to door in Westlock from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. all of those days. So if anybody's excited by that concept, come join me in Westlock, May 13th, 14th, 15th. And what we're doing is we're multitasking. It's about the municipal election, but it's also about advancing Alberta independence.
Excellent, Benita. You're doing good work.
I'm
Any
excited.
comments, Jeevan?
I'll make just a few comments. And Kerry's right. There's such a difference in Eastern Canadians and Western. I've talked to a couple of people that have moved to Calgary from Eastern Canada, and they say the difference is people in Eastern Canada, they get up in the morning and they ask, well, what is the government going to do for me today?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In Alberta, people get up in the morning and say, what can I do for myself today? What business can I open? How can I contribute to society?
That is so true, man.
That's
so true.
Actually, Canada is really 6 different regions. We're not a unitary country. The other comment I'd like to add is, Kerry is right. People are afraid to be conflicting. Canadians are generally afraid to voice their opinion because they think being polite is going to somehow they'll be rewarded. Versus the Americans, right? They see anything wrong with the government, they're out. 100,000 people are out in the front of the White House. The trucker convoy was the first time I've seen in 53 years some sort of massive protest by Canadians. And I thought that was great. So, to carry on with this conflicting idea, what I've done is in the back fence, we have a back lane. I screwed on my Wild Rose Independence Party poster, and everybody knows in my neighborhood that I support Alberta independence. And only one person has come and talked to me about it, and that's one of my neighbors. And I'm not scared to show that we should be fighting for independence, and this is what's wrong. And just to carry on with Dennis's efforts, maybe Dennis can correct me, but I believe this is the only time right now we have for Alberta to be independent. We are not going to get this time again for maybe decades. We have to leave a province that's great for our children and grandchildren, similar to the pioneers who worked in this province, and they left us this province.
Jeevan, you bring up a good point. And the point is that we need people to stay in this province to support the concept of conservatism, of self-determination, of freedom and prosperity. after the national energy policy in 1980, there were thousands of businesses that folded or left the country. And of course, many people committed suicide. It was devastating at that time. Subsequent to, or partway through Ed Stelmach's reign as premier, when he introduced the change to the royalty review, and then along came after a couple of other interim short-term premiers, we wound up with that NDP government. And then, but federally, with Trudeau, what happened is billions of dollars, something in the order of $200 to $250 billion of planned investment dried up. And businesses are still leaving the province. Yes, some businesses are coming back. But the point that I'm getting at here is that if we don't do something like this time around, we're going to lose more businesses that are going to leave this province. And we're going to wind up at a point in time in the future where we may not be able to get a plurality that is in support of Alberta sovereignty. So this is probably our best time now. We've got everything working for us, and we need to take advantage of this time. And Jeevan, you're the head of the Wild Rose Independence Party of Alberta, and you, like the various other independence parties, I love you all. As you know, we're a society, a nonprofit, nonpartisan educational society, but we love what everybody is doing on the independence front. We just want one thing, and that's for all the independence parties to funnel their members and supporters to do one thing. Just
Yes.
register their intent to support the referendum on Alberta sovereignty. It doesn't take away at all what you're doing as an independence party, but what you want and what all the independence parties want is they want sovereignty, and the pathway for that will be recognized by the U.S. will be a succcessful referendum. And by the way, that's international law. That's international law. The United Nations, this is a worthwhile point to make, recognizes the will of a population through a successful referendum. So, so you can imagine, that successful referendum here in Alberta and the U.S. recognizing Alberta as a sovereign nation out of the gate. That will be very powerful. So, so Jeevan, I don't know if you're in a position that you can speak with the other independence parties, but I would ask you to consider doing that.
No, we are in contact with other parties. Yes, we'll definitely pass the message. And our website was down for a couple of weeks, so it's up and running now, and we can access our membership. And I already made a note to make sure that we send that sign up to all our members.
Yeah. The other thing that we've done, and Kerry was on the call today, is on the website, we had this idea that we would, there were different forms of Alberta sovereignty. One was sovereignty within Canada, whereas Alberta has far more control of its wealth and affairs. That was of course a strategy to try and get people who didn't want Alberta to leave Canada but would support the referendum. Well, we're at a point now where we're going to eliminate, still on the website right now, but that concept of Alberta sovereignty within Canada is going to be gone in the next, as soon as
we're definitely past that. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we're past that now. So it's simply Alberta sovereignty, and that's what the U.S. wants Alberta to be a sovereign nation, along with Saskatchewan.
And there's only so much time that we have to talk about this, and we are, as APP, we're doing events. We're, as a matter of fact, I think they're meeting right now, our events group, to talk about what events we've got planned over the next couple months. We're doing town halls. We've done a lot of work for over the last couple of years. You can always go on the Alberta Prosperity Project .com, or we have a Rumble channel. We have a whole bunch of other videos that we've made. Dennis has been a guest multiple times talking with Chris and myself about many different aspects of how this could all work. Because even one thing that we didn't bring up is this idea is a citizens initiative. But I believe, Dennis, and this is probably still on the table, Daniel Smith could actually just say, you know what, as of tomorrow, I'm writing up a form and we're going to just go ahead and do a referendum. Now, I know she won't, but I think it's within her power in order to do that. Is that still true?
Yes, Kerry, that is true.
Yeah.
She could do that, but I think she follows along with Premier Klein's famous line of "find a parade and get in front of
I
it."
agree.
We're creating that parade, and I think for her it's politically safer if this is led by the people. So what we're doing is this is a populist movement, okay, and populist movements are non-political. So this is a non-political populist movement to get us out from under the chains of federal control of every aspect of our lives. So I think that from the understanding that I have, she will respect the result of the referendum. I have it in correspondence. So I believe that will be the case. And so Kerry, you're right.
I got a question for perhaps for Benita, Kerry, but most for James. What do you think that the problem is to getting this initiative to the younger generation? Like, I'll be 35 next month, so that's fine. But what do you think that can be done to, let's say, propagate the message to a younger generation, especially in the universities and
James is waiting.
academia?
It's very simple. It's very simple. But we have to remember that we're human beings. You have to dumb it down, put it into layman terms so people can understand it. When you get into all those scientific terms, lawyer talk, political talk, stuff like that, you lose the interest of the younger crowds.
Absolutely.
You need to make it simple for the younger generations, for them to get behind it. You know, you come in and say, well, we want sovereignty so that whatever. Like, if you make it a point where you'll have your freedoms, you'll have a choice in life, you'll be able to grow your family in a world that makes sense. Younger generations can get behind that. Whereas if you explain it as all complicated and you know, like I said, scientific, people don't understand. They don't get it.
Yeah.
People's attention span is 10 seconds. So when you make a post on Facebook or TikTok, Twitter, whatever it is, a video, they watch the first 10 seconds and then they're scrolling on to the next one. You have to get their attention within the first 10 seconds. Otherwise, you lost them. So that's my answer.
We need to get into the TikTok generation type of thing, right?
Oh, yeah, we got that.
Sweet, fun videos.
Oh, yeah.
But, for Dennis there, he brought up the fact there of trying to get other independent parties on board with this to get signing. Absolutely, and I think it's beneficial for every independent party to get behind this. That's going to boost their own platforms. That's going to boost their own people into it. This is a trend that all Albertans want. If you looked at the election, there was one little red spot there down in Calgary, I believe. The rest of Alberta was all blue. Mm-hmm. They wanted change. Alberta wanted change. We were done with Trudeau. We're done with Carney. We're finished. You know, I truly believe that this is something that all independent parties can get behind, and to have a referendum and make us free, get us away from the federal government. You know, sure, okay, we could have conservatives say win this election 4 years, 8 years, 10 years down the road, then it'll be switched back to liberals again, or whoever, whatever party. I truly believe that we're done with the whole flip-flop thing. We want to be free. We want to have our own say in life, especially the younger generations.
And that boils down to perhaps adopt a better strategy into the younger generation. That's kind of the reason why Poliver won. Well, he lost, but his campaign was so well done, because at the end of the campaign, the younger generation started to endorse Pierre. and the image that the younger generation were trying to convey is the idea of a better future, that sort of thing. So I think that we need to translate that and merge with the Alberta independence stuff
Mhm.
and put into 15-second TikTok videos and stuff,
Absolutely.
and getting in there, trying to engage the younger mind, because you don't know it, but there's a lot of people in universities right now who are so being brainwashed by this woke virus right now. But I think if we can water down the message enough so they can at least digest a 15-20 second video while they're commuting in their bus, because they don't have cars, they can't afford to buy a car. Unfortunately,
Max, I have a phrase for you. It's more money in your pocket. I mean, you could rewrite the phrase if you want, but just
absolutely.
more money in your pocket. It's short, it's sweet, it's quick, and then combine it with a 15-second TikTok video. When you add an element of fun, that is something that draws in the young people. And so, for example, I was involved in a political event on the weekend. We had Cookie Monster. We were engaging with kids and families. We had a spinning wheel, like literally a spinning wheel that you would spin wool on, but we had people spin it for the contest. That engaged all ages of people, including seniors. Adding an element of fun is key to engage more people, especially youth.
Yeah, I kind of think from a young point of view of along the lines of what you were just saying, Max and James and Benita, it's to me like, because when you do the math on getting rid of all of the federal taxes and carbon taxes, et cetera, what's the outcome? It's, hey, young people, double your income, buy a car, buy a house, have fun, vote, or go to albertaprosperityproject.com kind of thing, so I'm just throwing that out. But basically, what James said is correct. Young people want to be able to afford a house. They want to buy a car. They want to buy a motorcycle. They want to be able to buy a house. They want to be able to support a family, and they want to be able to do it on an income that allows them to take a holiday, maybe once or twice a year, and go out for dinner a week, and buy presents for their kids and their wife, and vice versa, sort of thing. So this all comes with a prosperous Alberta, and that is unshackled by the federal government. So
what did Jeff Ratt say, Dennis? Remember that? He said
unshackled by what came before.
And then he also said Alberta sends $70 billion annually to Ottawa in terms of the GST, excise tax, equalization payments, personal income tax, CPP contributions, EI, and we get $35 billion back.
Fuel tax, et cetera, excise tax, et cetera. It just all adds up. And, people don't really realize it, but, if you take the average worker's income in the province of Alberta is $78,000, if you take out all of the taxes that person would pay, you're left with actual purchasing power for products and services of $31,000. So getting rid of those taxes in a sovereign Alberta, which is possible here, the person making $78,000 would be having $68,000 to $70,000 of purchasing power. I mean, it's such a massive difference. It should be a no-brainer for any young person who wants to have a better life and a better future, even with that average income.
That's exactly what I mean. Like it's a no-brainer to the average person. We just have to make sure when we administrate it or share it out that we dumb it down to intrigue the younger generation.
Yeah,
there's a lot of us. Even myself, for example, like I'm gonna admit it. Before 2019, I didn't know any of this stuff. I was not political whatsoever. I went to work, head down. That was it. And then, the Freedom Convoy stuff, I woke up and I started paying attention. I was part of the boys that got arrested, and I had no choice. I had to learn this stuff. But there's still a lot of people my age that are oblivious to it. Like Benita was saying, they ride the bus and scroll their phones. So as long as we can dumb it down to grab their attention, give them that 10 seconds of, hey, vote APP, Alberta sovereignty.
Yeah.
Then
You
you'll
know,
have,
you remind me of the line of, you may not want to be involved in politics, but politics will sure as hell be involved with you, whether you
Yes.
like it or not, so.
I heard that. Maybe we can take some questions from the audience. There's a lot of people
I was just going to say that. So scrolling through, people are asking about a lot of the particulars about what are we doing about policing and how do we do our own tax collection and how do we military and prisons and all that sort of stuff. If you go on the AlbertaProsperityProject.com website, there's a frequently asked questions section.
Mm-hmm.
We also, again, have addressed a lot of these issues in podcasts, and I advise people to go and check out all that stuff. It's difficult to actually try and say all this stuff in 5 minutes. Like it's next to impossible in order to say that. But there are plans to do things. Do we have everything down to a detail? No. But the idea is that we have these steps in place that we know, okay, what are the things that we need to do? And taxation, right? Because what ends up happening if people don't understand how taxation works is you basically file your taxes, the money goes to Ottawa. And then Ottawa decides how much money it gives back to the provinces. That's kind of the way the equalization works. So if we give $70 million or $70 billion in a year to Ottawa, they only give us back, what is the number there, Dennis? Like 26,
35.
Yeah, it's about half.
So what do they do with the rest of that money? Well, they end up doing social programs. And here I'm going to stand up and show my little Alberta. But what I wanted to do is stand on my soapbox here. I've got two things that kind of irk me that have been asked about by, I'm going to say my liberal friends. Let's put it that way. And I just want to get them off my chest because I think this is also important that people don't realize exactly what happens to our tax dollars. Number one is $10 a day daycare. Sounds amazing. I'm going to go to work. I only have to pay my $10 to get my kid in daycare. Amazing. Here's the backside to that. Do you think that the people that are looking after your kid are only making $10? No, they're subsidized through your tax dollars. And that could be subsidized $100, $150 per kid. Where does that money come from? Well, guess what? It probably comes from a prosperous Alberta. Number two is the new dental care. So I've got a daughter, and I know people that follow our show. They know my older daughter's from Tom Trist. My younger daughter is going through dentistry. She's third year. She works in a clinic right now in which this free dental plan. If anybody came in, they had problems with their teeth, it was $60 a visit. And yes, that was $60 out of their pocket. Now they come into the same clinic. It's free, but you know how much they charge back? $180. Where is that $180 coming from? It's coming from all of us people. That's the way your tax dollars work. So if you haven't realized that we have been subsidizing the rest of Canada for years, and there's no reason why Canada as a whole, if we get out, as an example, Alberta gets out, places like Ontario, Quebec, and even Manitoba will have to stand on their own and figure out another way to keep their social programs going or not. And likewise, if we get rid of our $10 a day healthcare as a province, you know why we can do that? Because you're going to be richer and you're going to be able to afford daycare for your kids. That's the way it's going to work.
Absolutely. I think we lost Dennis, I believe.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe.
I want to address that one comment there that went across the screen there. Why kids our age can't find part-time jobs. Well, a lot of it has to do with the motivation, the drive. For one, a lot of people have lost the motivation to work themselves. But on another side too, we've had a big issue with immigration here in Alberta, right across Canada actually. But we have a lot of immigrants here in Alberta that we have to either change. We have to find more work for them, build more houses or whatever. And the way to do that is to have more money in Alberta to be able to build that infrastructure, create those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And those
and also
in Independence, Alberta, we can create the different jobs and stuff and pull away from Canada.
Well, that's another reason to go for Alberta independence, because then we can create our own immigration rules. Right now, we're sort of subject to the feds because immigration falls under federal jurisdiction, not provincial jurisdiction. When we are no longer a province and we are a nation or a republic, well, then we make the immigration rules. So that's just another reason to go independent. So I'm hopeful that all those people struggling to get jobs, we can figure out the right words to present to them so that they understand the Alberta independence concept, they buy into it, they support it, and they help spread the knowledge.
Yeah, and that's going to another point as well, is that by creating your country, you can sort of think about the model of society you want to apply. If you want to create a society where there's a lot of entrepreneurship, if there you want to make a society where we can promote the younger generation how to create a business, how to work in finances, how money works in general, leverage them with with skills that they can use in when they're adults, basically. That's going to be something that could be thought about as well. When I was 16, I was repairing computers, and that was like one of my first jobs I ever had, is to repair computers, and that was fun, right? So why can't we do that as well too for the young generations? But I think that to boils down to the question that it was asked in the chat, is that all those questions about military, policing, social services, that sort of thing, is basically the second step once we have a piece of paper that Alberta is a nation. Okay, so all those specifics and how you want to create the social structure around Alberta as a country or as a nation, what have you, will be defined in a later step, not now. Today is trying to get out the vote, trying to educate people, trying to convince the younger generation that this is a good idea, giving them the tools to succeed so they can propagate the word inside. And also one thing is that what I hear a lot is that there's a lot of people from other provinces who are willing to relocate to Alberta just because they don't agree with the Communist Social Liberal Party of Canada.
Max, that's absolutely right. And what there's so many people that are leaning towards socialism. While you let Dennis back in the room, I have a comment about the timing of the referendum. Because, I mean, we have municipal elections this fall. They're on Monday, October 20th. I'm running for municipal council in my town. I might even run for school trustee as well, because I believe in healthy boundaries for children, and I'm frustrated with some of the stuff that's been going on in the schools. So that day where we're all running to the ballots anyway to vote for municipal council and school board, that very well might be the perfect day to have the referendum on independence. However, I suspect we are only going to get one shot at this. So is October 20th too soon? If we had the referendum on independence on October 20th, will it be a yes vote, or would it be more strategic to postpone the referendum to a later date? I'd actually love to hear from Dennis and Kerry on this.
Please. Good question.
I think we strike when the fire is hot.
I think so too. I mean, as close as to this day as we could.
Yeah. I don't want to wait. I'm getting older and I can't wait for Alberta. So
been around since 1905, according to Jeevan.
Yeah, well, actually 04.
I agree. Right now, everybody's heated. They want change. They want it now.
Yeah.
Now's the time to button.
Well, the other thing is how much damage can Carney do to Alberta the longer we delay? So,
yes, absolutely.
That's an issue too.
Absolutely.
Or he could bribe a lot of Albertans that vote Liberal to vote against the referendum, and guys, so sooner the better.
If you guys are serious and you want this referendum October 20th, the amount of work that we and all our teammates have to do, all those 40,000 people on APP or 60,000, however many you have, we need to be going door to door promoting this and signing up more supporters. We need to be at trade shows and fairs promoting this. We need to be in parades all summer long.
It's summer. It's summer.
We need to have a unified message. So I really like the phrase Alberta Independence Movement. I just think that's a wonderful phrase. If we all said Alberta Independence Movement, and then obviously we should all carry the Alberta Prosperity Project materials and have the Alberta Prosperity Project website on display, because I think that's the ultimate place for everybody to sign up. Even though there's multiple groups working on Alberta independence, I'm sensing Alberta Prosperity Project is the biggest. It's got the most momentum. Let's just back that one. Let's get all the independence groups backing that. And so I'll raise my hand right now. I'm going to be in at least one parade this summer. I'm going to be working on this. I'm going to work on this on my own campaign. I'm going to go door to door on this. Are you? And I'm not just looking at you 6 people, you 5 people. I'm looking at everybody watching this broadcast. If you are serious about Alberta independence, are you going to do the work? Because we need door knocking, we need signups. Social media sharing alone is not enough. Absolutely. There has to be more. Kerry, I'm curious to know your view on that.
And I'll just answer that very quickly. We've talked about that many times in terms of how do we get the APP message out to younger people? How do we get it to people that are not on social media? And it's varied. Like banging on doors during an election. If you've never done that, you definitely have to do it, because, like I said early on, that's the way you actually get to engage one-on-one with somebody, and that would be the best way to do it. However, how many hundreds of thousands of people would you need in order to do that properly, right? So if we have team leads in each constituency, and again, we have 87 CAs across the province. If we had a team lead or multiple team leads, and each person looked after, say, 100 homes or something like that, we could probably get that done within a few months. I don't think that would be that big of a deal. But billboards, Dennis and I have talked about billboards for the longest time, right?
Yep.
And just getting the message out in any other way. I mean, again, having social media, newspapers, if that's even a thing anymore, getting it on TV, is that a thing anymore? You know what is amazing, and we've talked about this as a communications team, there are other ways to get the message out that, digital, kids are on their phones all the time playing games. How many times have you played a game and a little message comes up and it's from, whatever an ad is? During the NDP election, the election in 2023, playing games, the NDP message would show up on there. Like, that is amazing. So if you really want to get a message out, there are multiple venues in order to do that. And all of this takes time, takes volunteers, and takes money. So if you can do any one of those 3 or all 3 of them, God bless you.
Joseph, why Jeevan has to step out. Any closing remarks before?
Yes, attend the rally. Sign up for APP. They're in the lead, and as far as developing the referendum, putting pressure on our premier. Let's go in with this. The sooner we do it, the better. We have to stop being a colony to Quebec.
The People's Republic of Quebec.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's great meeting you.
Hey, thank you very much, and
we'll see you on Saturday.
Absolutely, I will be there for sure. And this is like a sub. Thanks very much for accepting the invitation. By the way, it was a pleasure, and we'll see you there on Saturday. And this is a hot rod subject right now. The Freedom Canada website right now is absolutely detonating right now with all those visits. This is like, ever since I put this website together, this is the busiest site ever. Mm-hmm. It's like in the last 24 hours, I got 986 visits. So I never seen a number like this before ever. And just on this stream alone, we have somewhere like 400 people along with all the platforms. So it's really a message that needs to be populated. And we have the fire rod to start this thing. So we can focus on social media, focusing on messaging, getting to the younger vote. That's going to be another tip as well too.
There have been a couple of questions. I'm just going to go back through because I'm so used to doing this on my own podcast that look at this. So like Anna just asked, do you have to live in Alberta to sign the APP pledge or to sign up for it? Yes. I mean, you can, but then the issue is that we'll be able to flag it because you'll come from an R postal code or something like that, not as a T, right? So we'll know that you're not in Alberta. But the idea is that we need Albertans to sign up. So that, yes, if you know of anybody in Alberta, maybe you're in Ontario and you're kind of going, I wish I could get involved with this. Talk to a friend who maybe live in Alberta and let them know what's going on. And then maybe you can move here.
Well, the other thing is, Kerry, it doesn't matter if you live in another province and you're in favor of Alberta sovereignty and you think you might want to move here someday.
Yes.
You're certainly welcome to become a member and buy a membership or make a contribution for the cause.
You're right.
So that's another thing to consider.
That's right.
So I got emailed a template of the petition for the referendum signing, and I've been sending it out. What I've been doing is I've been getting in contact with owners of campgrounds. I also gave out a couple copies to the fire chief of Camrose. He's also been going around to all the people he knows. And some of the bigger guys that I know that have a lot of friends in their communities to get them to sign the sheets and stuff. And then I've been collecting them and going to be handing them in to whoever, Kerry, whoever wants them.
Yep.
But that's kind of how I'm doing it.
I'm running for town council in Westlock, and as part of my campaign platform, I'm considering putting the following campaign platform point: that I will support the council of the town of Westlock writing a letter to both the federal government and the provincial government saying we support independence for Alberta. Now, I can't do this unless I know I've got the people behind me to do this. So that's why the door knocking campaign I'm starting on May 13th, 14th, 15th is so incredibly important, because I have to get a feel for the community and see just how many people in the community support this. But that's just something to be aware of as well, is that if you can get a municipal council, so I'm not just talking, say, one person in Camrose, James, if you could get the whole council saying, yeah, we support independence for Alberta, if that council writes a letter to government, that helps our momentum as well.
I've been in talks with a lot of them. I got a lot of stuff that I could say.
I'm going to have to sign off in a couple of minutes, but I do want to make a point, and that is what we talk about in the Alberta Prosperity Project is Alberta sovereignty. It is the strongest term in relation to self-determination and control of your life. That term means self-control. So that's why we use the term sovereignty, not independence. But Kerry, are there any specific questions that have come up in the chat?
Well, like I said, just the questions in regards to how do we actually go about and do this, and what are the benefits of doing our own taxation and our policing and all that. And again, we've addressed a lot of these in the past and people can just go to the sites themselves or the site in order to do that. I'm not quite sure if there's maybe just, do you have any last thoughts in terms of, my guess is 99% of the people that are watching this are pro-independence, right? But there's probably the 1% that are not. They're maybe hesitant. They just don't understand it. Is there anything that you can say to rally them to say either educate themselves or maybe go out and do something in order to figure out a better pathway for their own determination?
Well, my comment would be along the lines of if you like the way things have been going for you so far, then it's the definition of insanity, right? So, but if you want a better, brighter, freer future and greater control of your own wealth and affairs to purchase the goods and services that you want, then you need to embrace the concept of Alberta sovereignty, because otherwise what you're looking at is the WHO control of the federal government, which will control you. And I don't think that if you think about this seriously, it is really not in your best interest to embrace the status quo. It is in your best interest to chart a new path forward. And to the point that James made earlier, I think this is really relevant, is young people are adventurous. What do they like to do after high school? They maybe like to travel. They like to do things different. They like to find their place in life. Well, you do that when you have freedom and you have money in your genes, and you'll never get that with the future that is envisioned by this federal government.
Yeah.
And just think about this one thing with Mark Carney and his plan to implement a central bank digital currency. That central bank digital currency means that the federal government will control your access to your account and will control how you spend your money. And if you spend your money, for example, on gasoline for your car, you may be restricted significantly in terms of how much gas you can purchase. And at some point, you may not even be able to purchase gasoline for
Absolutely.
your car. So this is the kind of thing you want to avoid as someone who relishes staying within the Confederation, which cannot be fixed. You need to understand it cannot be fixed. It has to be broken apart. And Alberta is leading the way, and come along for the ride because you will benefit.
Yeah. And absolutely. And that's one of the things I kind of admire about this whole thing is that we can take the best ideas that were done in other countries and integrate it into Alberta. Like as I mentioned about what Dennis was referring is the concept of CBDC. Well, guess what? Mark Carnage, as I call him, is in fact the CBDC guy, right? So he is going to usher CBDC. In Alberta, at least, we have a very strong monetary foundation. We can, at this point, if we're successful, create our own currency, have our assets backed by gold, actual gold, So we have a lot more flexibility than relying on the federal government, which coincidentally sold all our gold assets just to pay off the debt.
Well, this is why you should support the Bow Valley Credit Union, because that's what they want to do is back the currency by gold. And of course, that's one of the things we look forward to in the future is the Canadian dollar. And so when you think of Alberta sovereignty, wouldn't it be nice, and this is very possible, if every Canadian dollar just for Alberta citizens is converted at par to the US dollar. So 1 Canadian dollar equals 1 US dollar. That will increase, the value by 30%. So in any case, I got to go. It's been fun. And thank you very much for the invitation to
Hey, thanks very much for coming. That was amazing.
See you guys.
Yes. We'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon.
You will.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Sorry, I was killing some trolls in the chat on YouTube. That was amazing. I think this subject is so touchy that we got some trolls probably paid by the unions.
Absolutely, trolls are fine. Maybe they'll educate themselves too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely.
Yeah.
And any remarks you'd like to add, James?
Yeah. So we were talking about the digital currency stuff and the federal government, all that. Well, as being a part of the freedom movement, as being arrested, as having my own bank accounts frozen, I can attest to that the federal government literally has a light switch that they can flip on and off with your money. I believe it was last year, maybe 2 years ago, when the Rogers network went down and nobody could use their debit cards or credit cards.
3 days.
Light switch that they flicked on and off. So we have to get that in our own control here back. I mean, your money is your money. It's not the government's money. And I want to have control of my money. That's where I stand with that one.
Mm-hmm.
And not just money, just have control of our own destiny. Like, why is it that we can't buy our house? Like many of us want to have families, right? Have children, want our kids to be safe and be well raised, That's important. So I would like to show a video that I just gathered from Corey Morgan. This is like a 10-minute video that I just found on the interwebs, on the internet, as I call. And this is about pretty much what we gather in this talk. But this is more like a very in-depth, very very strategic piece of
and for those people that don't know, don't have a clue as to who Corey Morgan is, maybe you're watching from Ontario or something like that. He's pretty well known here in Alberta, but he's a columnist for the Western Standard, as well as he was one of those original guys back in the 90s, dare I say 80, probably not because he's my age, but 90s, that he was looking at separatism. And as a matter of fact, he actually wrote a book called The Sovereigntist Handbook. And a great read. It actually goes through a lot of the steps of the history of what happened with Alberta and the reasons why we have this resentment towards the East. And because really we've just been that big milking cow the entire time, right? They've been milking us, and we give it over to them, and that's kind of how it is. But He lays it out really well, and he talks about all the different parties that have come through, and sadly, why they've failed. And they've all failed because there's always this Messiah that comes in. And honestly, even, James, I'm just pointing at you just for this because you're a good buddy, so you know what's going on. But what would have happened if Pierre Poilievre got in as opposed to Carney? Carney gets in right away. It's like, this is it's red. If Pierre got in, I don't think it would be as drastic right now, at least not right now. I think
exactly
8 months, maybe a year from now, we may realize that the same policies are being rolled out. Maybe carbon tax would come back in and all these things that we know that Carney is just waiting to push the button on, right?
So and I will answer that. I want to answer that.
Sure.
You made up great points there. So I'm probably going to shoot myself in the foot with this, but that's okay. I want to speak how I feel on it. As everybody knows, because I was very public with it, I did vote Conservative, and I was very proud of it. And the reason why I voted Conservative is because I did vote Conservative.
Yeah,
I had a lot of hope for Canada to be able to come back together. That was my mission.
Yeah,
I've been since 2022. I've been trying to bring Canadians together, to stand together, to see the corruption, to wake up, everything else. So that was my motive. I knew that if Conservatives did not get a majority government, nothing would change. Mm-hmm. Clearly, they don't have a majority government. Even if they were to win, it's a minority. Nothing's going to happen. I got pushed many different ways to vote NDP, to vote PPC, to vote even Green Party. I had people asking me to vote Green, or promote it. And I had to think logically of where things were at, that the only way to have change in the federal government had to be a Conservative or Liberal party. That's just how it was.
Yep.
Now that the election is over, we're able to worry about Alberta now, and fight for what Albertans need and want. It's clear. During the election, like I said, there's one little red spot down in Calgary.
Yeah.
And the rest of Alberta, is blue.
Three spots. Yeah.
There's three spots in Alberta.
They're just big.
Orange, red, red.
Just big. It don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. But that's my point to it is the fact that now that Canada has chosen what they want, now we can go back to where we live and fix our own people, our own families, our own selves. And that's why I stand behind, this Alberta independence. I've always been about separation and stuff. I don't fall in line with the 51st state stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't want to align with Americans. That's not my movement.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that each province should start having control of themselves. That's the only way to stop this division in the whole country, as far as I'm concerned, because you always have far left, far right, everything in between. Nobody can come together. And it's been like that for years. We just haven't paid attention to it. So
especially since the convoy. I lost a lot of business because of the convoy, because they associated with the Freedom Convoy. They told me that I'm basically a racist and intolerant and that sort of things. So I wanted to
premise on global.
Yeah, global. You know what? Some people apps. I want to tell you, your apps. People absolutely love your hoodie.
No, thanks.
The
But
F
yeah,
company
no,
one.
again, I 100% support this referendum. I 100% support Alberta taking control, paving the way.
Yeah, yeah. I might suggestion probably something that we haven't talked. Well, Dennis left, but that's okay. I think at this point I think there's a motivation of pushing Western independence 100%. So now I think the next step will be to think about a social media strategy to get the younger vote. That's one. And two, because there's for those who know that freedomcanada.net started from the grassroots at the very base level. And one of the things that they're very decentralized and they don't talk each other. So we need to kind of bring what we can use, we can leverage their presence towards the APP or of any independence groups or whatever. This is something that it was brought by Corey Morgan. So what my suggestion is to listen to the video and we can pause in between if you want to comment on that. Okay?
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. It's a 15-minute video, so I'm going to play this thing here.
Play it at double speed. That's how I listen to podcasts while I'm driving.
Okay, this is okay. I understand.
It's all
I don't know. I don't know if I can double speed.
No, don't worry about it. No, because that'll confuse people that don't have the ear for it. I know it takes a little bit of training to listen. Now listen, people when you're talking to this, yeah.
Okay.
Well, the election's over. It's kind of as we expected. The East continues to dominate. The election's called before it gets to the West, and we're in for possibly 4 or more years, probably decades when you really think of the history of Canada, of treatment that favors the East at the expense of the West. The independence movement is going to blossom again. But you see, that's the thing we got to remember. Again, guys, we got to get it right. We can screw this up and we can set it back unless we approach the independence movement with planning, patience, rationality, and a plan. I know patience is hard right now and people are eager to go, but we got to do things one step at a time and we have to do them right.
Yes.
There's only one path, whether it's Alberta or Saskatchewan, both legislatively and morally, to extract a province from the Federation, and that's through a referenda. I know some people talk about some of the other things, like this is one of the first things we can mess up with weird interpretations of the Constitution or the Magna Carta or how the West signed in or whether Canada is a corporation. Listen, none of that matters.
Good point.
What has to happen is a majority of people in the provinces that want to go have to express it in a clear referendum that they want to get out. You start playing games and saying we can unilaterally declare things and everything else. All that does is give the government an excuse to stop the movement in its tracks, and it doesn't attract people. Plus the moral aspect. Look, if we don't have the majority of people wanting to go, then we don't deserve to go. We have to win that majority. And the referenda is the best way to do it. Not to mention the Clarity Act, which states pretty clearly we have a path to independence if there's a clear vote towards it in a provincial referendum. Now, the referendum, first things first. For one, we got to wait until we can win it. I mean, some recent polling has shown over 30% of Albertans and Saskatchewan citizens are ready to roll now that the Liberals are back in. But that's not nearly enough to win now, is it? So why on earth would you hold a referendum now? Because some people say, we got to go now. We got to hold this referendum now. Why hold it now if you're not going to win it? You're actually going to set things back. You're going to give them years more. It's going to take years longer to get another referendum if you go into one and lose. Quebec knows this. That's why they haven't held one since the 90s, even though they came within 1%. Then rest assured, there's many independent supporters in Quebec who want out, but they're not going to pull the pin on that until they're sure they win it next time. We aren't even close yet. Or as high as it gets, you can't dismiss it. When you've got over a third of citizens saying they've had it with the Federation, they want out, you can't dismiss that. And that's a huge seed to grow from, but you see, it has to be grown. the other thing. So where do you focus? Where do you put your efforts to make that grow and get us to the position where we can get out? For starters, we need the ability for citizens to initiate the referendum.
Mhm.
Not the government. Don't leave it in their hands. It has to be up to us. Alberta has what I would call fake citizens initiative legislation. It was brought in by the Kenny government, I believe, in 2022 to fulfill a promise. But they purposely made the bar impossible to attain. There's no way to be able to initiate.
You wanna?
So we basically talked about that the initial citizens initiative had to have a certain percentage of voters. So that voter percentage voters amount was 3 million. We needed 20%, which is about 600,000. That's why, it's impossible to get 600,000 signatures within a 90-day window. Today, what was announced is that Daniel Smith and the government has dropped that number to be the percent of voters that actually voted in the last election, which is about 1.7 million. So about 170,000 signatures are needed. And instead of being a 90-day window, 120 days. That still sounds like that is still a big ass number. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But what I want to bring up is the reason why APP is collecting the contact names first, as opposed to getting signatures right away, is this happened with the Gondek recall. Gondek recall was supposed to be they were going to go out and get everyone's contact information, and I think they needed about 170,000 people or something to that effect. But what happened is one guy basically pulled the trigger too fast. And so they didn't have the contact names ready. So people needed to actually go out and get 170,000 signatures within 60 days, I believe is what it was. They failed. And they will be the first ones to tell you that they failed. They did a great job. They got about 70,000 signatures, I believe, but they did not get the 170. That is a terrible way to go ahead and do this. We've learned from the mistakes of the Gondek recall. Doing it this way and collecting everyone's contact information ahead of time will guarantee that this will pass. So that's what I wanted to comment.
I got a question in regards to that specifically. So you guys at the APP are going to gather the contact information for those who are going to support this initiative, right? Yeah. But on the other hand, you're going to get the names. But once you have the names, once you have the go ahead, you're gonna need people to get the signature.
And as a matter of fact, we have at any one call about 400 people who have already signed up to just take lists and go out to people's houses. And that what I've said in the past, and I'm still holding true to this, is we're not necessarily going to bang on everybody's door because people won't be there. You got to make phone calls. You got to have an awareness program to say, you know what, we are going to this area or this town. If you've signed up for this, we will be here on a Saturday afternoon and doing that. And again, now that it's 120 days, that would be amazing if we could even start, say, by the end of June, we'd be able to have all nice days in theory, because short Alberta summer, we'd be able to at least do stuff. Maybe we could have outdoor events and concerts. Somebody suggested that in the comments, and get people's signatures. Right? Because in the end, even though we have, let's say, 200,000 contact names, once that momentum starts where we're actually out banging on doors and people are, so what are you here for? Oh, I didn't know that. I'm just going to get my neighbor to do it. We'll get a larger number than 200,000. I know for a fact we will, but we're not going to pull the trigger until we have at least that.
So basically, Daniel Smith has lowered the bar when it comes to getting to this critical threshold.
That's right.
So, but you can act as it was critical.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you're gonna have probably need some volunteers to get to the actual vote. So we can say, okay, if we are in, let's say, in Red Deer or Leduc, for instance, we're gonna get the votes in Leduc. You're gonna send an email to them and say, hey, in Leduc, that's going to do this, and this is where we're going to get the vote and such, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So another person just asked, APP should have a counter on the website to show how many signatures have been collected. We did. As a matter of fact, we actually merged a couple of databases. That's the only reason why we don't have a counter right now. Guaranteed by next week we'll have a counter. There's a reason for that, and again, we're about 70,000 right now. That's kind of, but like even during this podcast, maybe we're at 72,000, maybe we're at 74,000. I have no idea what that number is going to be. But the idea is that we still need to vet who's put their names in, because again, if you've signed up for the referendum and you are in a different province or a different postal code, you're not going to go into that. However, we really would like for you to be involved somehow, and whether or not you can volunteer, spread the word, or maybe even sign up for a membership. That would be amazing if you could be involved and you're not. So there's that extra catch-up time that we need to do. And obviously, honestly, we've got a group of people that are working on that right now. But if we're getting 1,000 new signups per hour, it's going to take a little while of a backlog to get an actual number.
Yeah, and that boils down to a question as well, is that once we get the critical number of, let's say, 600,000 people, assuming that's less now because of the new legislation, we need to get sure that to follow the same rules as Elections Alberta. So there has to be, in order to vote in Alberta, you had to be Canadian citizen, and you had to live in Alberta for 6 months.
Yeah.
So that is what makes you eligible to fill the vote. So obviously we have some errors in the database and such based on behavior analysis.
That could be a 1% error of people that have not lived here for 6 months.
Oh yeah, or they probably moved or something. Yeah,
that's why we need more in the contact list than we actually need.
Yeah, absolutely. Do they have to be an APP member in order to fill out the form?
They do not have to be an APP member. It would be great if they did, because even I think it's $20 a year, $30 for 2, and $40 for 3 years, whatever it works out to be. That money goes towards the educational programs. It goes towards the website, goes out to town halls and meetings. It goes out to anything that we are able to do. I talked earlier about a billboard. You know how much a billboard is? Right. And we've actually talked about just printing stuff and putting them on the side of trucks and doing that. You've probably seen the Rebel News truck. Even that truck is ridiculously expensive, but they can change messages. And that would be a nice thing to be able to do too, because if we want to do this and grab hold, like for APP, we could have a truck right now saying, did you see what the East did during the election? Blah, blah, blah. Right. And then maybe next month they'll do something else. Carney will come back with their carbon tax Carney, blah, blah, blah. And there's another sign. So each time you do that, it's going to cost money to do. So that's where your membership go. Yeah.
This is a grassroots movement. And so I believe in grassroots messaging. It doesn't always have to be the perfect Alberta Prosperity Project brand. What needs to be
I've seen Benita go out and paint signs on the side. Like they look hand painted. Benita, they're amazing. But that's
I created a 40-foot banner for less than $200 because I used silage wrap. And then I created another 12 giant banners for less than $400 because I got a few things donated. So I'm just saying this can be done. And I agree, like having money come in to pay for professional signage would be nice, but there's ways to do this. And if the Alberta Prosperity Project website was amended slightly and basically said, hey, here's the words and images we'd really like people to put out there, people would figure out how to paint that on plywood or the sides of their trucks. They'd figure it out.
Yeah.
James,
I've seen people paint QR codes.
And QR codes are so easily to do. I would caution though on the QR code side of things, because QR codes, some people are just afraid of QR codes. I work in IT. I don't mind. I actually love QR codes, but that's a different thing. What do you think about that, James?
So yeah, talking about advertising and stuff. Again, I was trying to dip into that a little bit. I've been going around to some big people that I know that are on board with this. They're Albertans. And they're taking their sheets and they're getting 4, 5, 6, 10 sheets filled out.
Yes.
Going around like that. Another thing that just popped into my head, I don't know if it's good or bad or not, but I'm going to do it anyways because apparently to the Canada, I'm a rebel. So I'm going to be taking my conservative constituent signs, flipping them over and putting on referendum and put them back on my billboards here in the field that are right on Highway 36.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and also in regards to the events, this is the kind of joy of running things from the grassroots level is that allows us to do a lot of things. Like if you guys have events like a signature dates, like I can put on the Freedom calendar as well
Oh,
too.
absolutely. Yeah.
So we
Yeah,
can
we've
get in touch.
We've promoted Max and the freedomcalendar.net on APP and even on our podcast too. And it's great. It's one of the first places I go and say, oh, I know there's an event going on in Edmonton, but what is it? And there Max has it. It's amazing. He is all over the place.
Yeah,
Should
it's
we
all over
continue
the
on
place.
Start sharing it out to all different events and rallies and get it.
Yep.
You know, like I know some pretty big podcasters.
Yeah.
You know, and I know some guys that will get this out big, like over.
Yeah, like for instance, the next
followers.
events here. Like this is the website, by the way. If I go on next events, like I have the event for the Rally of Independence.
Yeah.
I got some UCP stuff. This is financial stuff from church, like how to get well with money. You know, it's all in there. This is another event from the Edmonton Pro-Life Association over there. So everything that you need to know what the Freedom community is doing right now. You can go in there and look it up by yourself. You might not be in this movement, but you can meet good people in there who are like-minded like us, you know. Mm-hmm. So I'm just gonna continue the video, okay?
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Some people are asking, what happened to the video? I just paused it.
Referendum in Alberta.
Someone
right
just
now.
asked, is the May 1st event the same as
a person needs to get it together, get it through the elections Alberta, get it started, then the clock starts ticking, and they need 600,000. It's like 580,000, but in reality, you will need over 600,000 signatures on a petition to invoke the referendum. Now, if somebody looks at polling and says, well, geez, polling shows that there's that many people out there. Okay, well, go find them. You got 90 days to find that many people and have them sign an official petition. We're not talking about online petitions. We're not talking about something you just printed off. It has to be a particular official petition. That person has to sign with their home address and their phone number to make it valid. Look, there's a lot of people that are not eager on sharing their personal information like that.
True. Yeah.
And think of the veritable army you need to get out there and get that many signatures in 90 days. It's not going to happen. Not even close. Anybody who thinks it's easy has never actually petitioned before on an official petition.
Yep.
So just look at the recent one where people tried to play by the rules with the Recall Act, which again, the same thing. They brought that in the same time as the referenda one in Alberta and set the bar impossibly high. In Calgary, they needed something like 400,000 signatures or 500,000 signatures to recall Mayor Jyoti Gondek. And Gondek, she's in the bottom of the polls. Most Calgarians can't stand her. They were ready for her to go. And a great movement of thousands of people got to work, hitting the ground, pounding the pavement to try and get a recall initiative going for Gondek. In the end of it all, they got 69,000 signatures. Not even close, even though they worked their butts off. So what do? Well, for starters, don't get into the independence parties, guys. And I'll give a little background. I founded the Alberta Independence Party and led it into an election against Ralph Klein, over 20 years ago. A little note of trivia and pride. I was the youngest party leader in Canada at the time, but he handed our ass to us. In fact, every independence party has its ass handed to it. In the last election, I think there were 4 or 5 little independence parties trying to run, and none of them could break 1%. You're pissing in the wind with those guys, and good people working hard behind those parties, but it's not getting us closer to the goal line. And no, you can't try to turn the UCP into an independence party either, because then you turn it into the same thing that's been failing all over, with independence movements as it is. What you need to do is get into the UCP, though, and get the legislation fixed so the power is in the hands of the citizens to initiate the referenda. Then Premier Smith, she's kind of said that already in a way. She's saying it's up to Albertans. I leave it to Albertans if there's going to be a referendum. Not okay, fair enough. And then that way they don't have to take that strong stance one way or another openly, anyways. And I assure you, I know a lot of caucus members in the UCP. There are independent supporters in there. There's a lot of them. But you've got to get in and get the legislation fixed. You need the bar properly set so citizens can actually initiate a referenda, and a binding referenda. Make sure that word is in there. Don't let them
Say it again.
That's exactly what happened. Now, so I haven't actually checked into it beyond what we just stated, the 170,000 threshold. That is being proposed, and I don't think it's been pushed through the legislature yet. That's my guess. However, if it happens as fast as the Bill of Rights, or maybe even by the time we hit, say, September, if we know we have a goal that should be 170,000, then we'll look at 200,000. If we need 600,000, which is kind of what we've been talking about for the last couple of years, then that's the goal, is 600,000. If we only needed 200,000, but we had 600,000, how amazing would that be?
Yeah, I just gonna respond to a question that was asked because some people haven't watched the rest of the show. In order to push a referendum vote, you have to be eligible to Elections Alberta standards, which means you have to be in Alberta, living in Alberta for living for 6 months, actually living in Alberta, and then you have to be a Canadian citizen.
Okay, and over 18.
And over 18. Oh
18
yes,
over. Yeah.
Okay.
Put the weasel words into the legislation to make it useless as it sits currently. So you got to get out there, join your local UCP constituency association as a member, and push the board, push the MLA, push the aspiring MLAs, and say, we need that legislation fixed. We need that in the hands of the citizens.
I just want to add to that as well too. Within the UCP website, I'm going to show it to you. Yeah. But it's also on the Freedom Canada website. But in this case, I'm going to make due diligence. I'm going to show up the events for the UCP website, as I'm going to demonstrate here. Share this site, add to stage, remove from stage. There's a lot of events within the UCP website, and many of them has to do with AGMs for Edmonton City Center, Northwest Constituency.
CAs, yeah, right.
Yeah. So basically what happens within the UCP nomenclature is that if you are living in one of those ridings, you can look that up. If you're living in that riding, you can be a president, you can be a secretary, you can be, I think, a CFO, something like that. But if you're not in your riding, you can be eligible as another set of responsibilities as a VP, like a VP of membership, VP of communications, that sort of thing. So that gives you the capacity to get involved within the UCP. You have to be a UCP member, so you have to have an active membership in order to do that. But this is something that you can already do right now. Like if you look at this notice of AGM Edmonton City Center, notice of AGM Northwest Constituency, Lesser Slave. So there's a lot of things that you can do. This is on the on United Conservative website, so unitedconservative.ca/events, but they're also on the Freedom Calendar as well too. So just for why you can get involved as well too. Okay.
Max,
that's step one, guys.
I'm involved in more than one CA, and it's neat to see these people on these boards and the way they talk about Alberta independence. So it's not even on the agenda or having the chat outside the meeting, but even at one of the recent ones, sometimes the lady is she's whispering it after. Okay, next Alberta independence, right? Even though it's off topic from the agenda.
Is that
so there's a lot of supporters already inside the UCP.
Yeah, and if you've ever been to an UCP AGM ever, the next one was going to be in Edmonton. That will be at the Expo, I believe. Is that the Expo?
There'll be 10,000 people there.
At least. And what's so funny is that's going to be in Edmonton Northwoods. And guess who's the MLA in that area? Janice Irwin. So that's going to be right in the belly. She's going to get mad.
That is true.
Oh, my God. It's going to be amazing. Let's move on with the video. I'm laughing right now. It's just so amazing.
One, and it's an important one, but it can be done relatively soon. The appetite is there. Get the legislation amended. Get it changed. There are many, many jurisdictions around the world, Switzerland, others, where they hold regular referenda because they've set it at an achievable level. And yes, you don't want it so low that it's frivolous, but you got to put it in the hands of the citizens. And that's step one. Don't leap all the way ahead to saying we want the referendum next week. That's many steps away. Why is it many steps away? Well, the other part is, do we have a ground game? How many groups will initiate the referendum? What happens if 5 different groups try to initiate 5 different ones and they're working? There's part of the problem with the party system too when you're playing with independence parties, because then you're competing with each other rather than working together. You can have independence groups. The Alberta Prosperity Project is the largest and the best organized, and it's already on the ground running. So I suggest, again, supporting them. I mean, there's other aspects of what they're doing you may or may not like, but it's one of the groups moving. In fact, if you don't like that, form other groups. But as long as the goal is all working together towards getting that referenda. You see, the groups can come and go. They don't have to be at each other's throats. You could be a member of 5 independence groups. You can't functionally be a member of 5 different political parties. I mean, you can join 5, but you're not really going to be functionally acting within them. So get on the ground, get with these groups. Not only that, let's say we get the ability to hold a referendum. Let's say that the UCP has fixed the legislation. The bar has been set reasonably now for citizens to initiate it. And let's say you think, we're really confident we can get over that, and it shouldn't be 50% plus 1. We got to be looking at 55, 60% for something as serious as independence.
I got a question. This is coming from James. Can you just elaborate the question so we can other people in the panel can answer the question? Was thinking about he was getting the question about, is the petition about the election, something like that? Can you just expand on that? What's the question?
Yeah, so I get a lot of questions from a lot of people when I hand out this petition to get it signed and stuff. Is this going to is this the election for the referendum? And I explained to a lot of people, no, it's a petition to trigger an election for a referendum. And I was just wondering if Kerry can elaborate a little bit more on that, just for the audience, that people can understand.
So people, we've kind of talked about it a little bit through the show, and eventually when this wraps, you'll be able to go back and actually view the entire show. That's the only thing I don't like about a live is it's difficult to, depending on the app that you're watching.
Absolutely.
It on, scroll back. But the idea is, yes, you basically need to have a certain number or a certain percentage in order to have a citizens initiative. I think that's what the question was, James, initially, was how do we get that
in layman terms, trigger the election.
To trigger the referendum. And so again, the idea would be, once we have this many signatures, then we get, we'll call it a citizen, but it'll probably be represented by someone in, say, the UCP that will go through and say, this is a citizens initiative presented to me through my constituency. I'm going to read this out, and this is the referendum. And that's what triggers the referendum itself, the 120 days now, as opposed to the 90 days. And then they basically say, great, you've got this amount of time, and you got to come back and have that those many names. And actually, as I'm saying that, is that correct? Yeah.
Basically, you'll be going back to all these people that have I don't know what the word is.
So all they like people who have actually signed, people who have signed stuff already, they will have to sign again, right? Mm-hmm. But they will sign an official document, right?
That's right.
So elections Alberta.
I mean, this is great that they've signed the sheets. Hey, that's amazing. And
it's a promise to vote, basically.
As long as it's legible and we can keep track of their phone numbers or email addresses or anything like that, that's great. But I would almost suggest, like, paper is great, but to actually do it on the website. And the reason is because it's actually using a keyboard. Everything's already entered, and it's also already in a database then. So when we are ready to go ahead and collect signatures, we can actually look at this database that's already put together. We don't have to manually input anything and say, okay, I'm going to look at Edmonton City Center and send out a group of people to these houses or collect signatures. And they're in a easily readable database, however they do it. They print it, they look at it on their phones, or whatever it is, and they've got that information. So again, going through and doing it on paper, that's totally fine. I mean, we were doing that with the Alberta First Pension as well. We had paper signatures. It would be the exact same scenario. We were collecting contact information so that when we were ready to go and initiate a citizens initiative on the pension plan, that would be great. However, with all this that's happened with the APP and the election, it's almost like, well, if you're signing up for the referendum on independence, the pension, the taxation, policing, all that would basically fall under that jurisdiction, because we'll be our own country and we can do whatever we as citizens decide. I hope that helps. Yeah.
May I have a question for you guys?
I just wanted you to clear it up for us. Thank you.
Yeah. And this is important thing is that this is the document that you go, the website is usually used to build the database.
Yes.
Okay. What you're going to fill during the date of the referendum is an official document from Elections Alberta.
That's right. That is true. And here's the other thing that we are not entirely sure of. Actually, maybe it's more me that's not entirely sure of. But we know that it is Elections Alberta that will have this document, but we're not sure whether or not it's actually Elections Alberta people that will be going out to do this, whether or not we'll actually be setting it up as as an actual referendum type of thing where you actually vote. And again, Benita, we've talked about that, whether or not that particular referendum would happen on October 20th and to coincide with the municipal elections here in Alberta. And so there are those sorts of things that we're hoping to iron out like very quickly. Right. But the idea is that we've still got a process. We've still got to get the contact information first. And then we will come up with a plan that says, okay, this is when we're going to go to the ledge. This is when we're going to initiate this. This is how the referendum itself will go through the Citizens Initiative Act and all that. Right. So those dates, they're speculative at best. Right. So.
Okay. Shall continue.
Yes.
And by the way, we're talking a lot in this particular podcast, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pieces of this podcast and I'm going to just put into 10, 15-minute clips so people can be able to digest and share as well too.
Yeah.
Kind of support in a referenda or ready to go with it. Do you have the ground organization? You have to understand the amount of campaigning required. I mean, just because you think you have that support, if you run a terrible campaign, that support can change. We certainly saw how supports change in the federal election too. So you have to have organizers all across the province. You have to have campaigners. You have to have door knockers. It's just like any other kind of campaign. And we don't have that yet. Again, the APP is sort of building the groundwork for it. They're doing great. Other groups can do that. They can work in conjunction. They can work lockstep. But if we just go throwing spaghetti at the wall, just independence, we're going to rush, we're going to be disparate, we're going to be disorganized, then it's not going to work. And the federalists and the authoritarians are going to be happy. The other thing is the US 51 thing. Guys, put it on the back burner. Do not, again, one step at a time. If indeed that's the way Albertans, Saskatchewan citizens want to go, it will only happen after an independence referendum.
Absolutely.
And you try to have a referendum straight to the US 51 thing. I don't even think it's possible under any legislations, but you're dividing the movement because there's a heck of a lot of independent supporters, but they're Alberta first. They're Saskatchewan first. They want out of the Federation, but they don't want to leap into the United States. Even if they love the USA and a lot of the policies and things like that, you're cutting the support in half of something that's already not enough, doesn't have enough support to win the independence vote.
Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, you can talk about US 51, but if you think you can leap straight to some sort of thing, negotiate straight with the United States, have President Trump march on in here and take Alberta or Saskatchewan as US 51, I tell you what, that's a pure failure and dividing your movement.
Mm-hmm. And
so don't. Keep laser focused. Independence out of the broken federation that doesn't serve the West and will never serve the West. Keep your eyes on that prize. How do you get out of that? There's a lot of other things that have to be covered, a lot of policies. We're talking about the pension plan. We're talking about the RCMP. Same thing. Push for those things through the UCP. Don't try and do it through an independence party. You're not going to get there. But you've got to get the means of the independence vote into our hands, and you've got to improve the provincial government to the point where we can confidently say we'd be better off being independent. Right now, the provincial government's in a mess. They're fighting with healthcare scandals. The Alberta pension plan movement fell apart under their guidance. The movement to form a provincial police force has fallen apart. They're running around like chickens with their head cut off. Get in there and support them on the movements that bring us closer to independence. particularly the referendum one, but as well as those other ones in the Alberta agenda. Now's our opportunity. Albertans and Saskatchewan citizens are furious. They've had it. They've realized the futility of trying to change things on the federal front.
Yep.
And they're looking for the alternatives. We've got to harness that discontent effectively and with a plan. Otherwise, it's going to fall apart. And we've got to watch for some of the self-serving or the weird or the different. We've got to keep it just on independence and not off on all the other things. I mean, I'm talking about, yes, Art Pawlowski, the crazy preacher from Calgary. I know he was victimized during the COVID period. I thought, and it was wrong. But it doesn't mean the man's fit to lead a movement or a party. And if you got that kook out in the front, I promise you the independence movement isn't going anywhere. You can certainly support the man, but don't put him in the front of the, don't make him the face of the independence movement or anybody like him. Plus, some of the people talking about an independent West, they're talking about a theocracy. They're talking about we want to make this Christian state and things like that. Hey, I understand the Christians feel embattled. I understand that, Western Christian-based, philosophy is what built the freedom-loving type of people we are. But we don't need that written into a new movement, guys.
Just want to touch base on that point because this is extremely important. This is what drove a lot of people towards the PPC in particular, but I'm not going to talk about the PPC in particular. We need to stay focused on independence, period. Mm-hmm. Period. What I heard in the freedom community, because I've been analyzing the freedom community for about 5 years in 2 provinces, there is a level of agreement that is not necessarily there. I mean, some people might agree on different things and they act on that. But most people might agree on the other things, they act on that. We need to stay focused on the objective. That's the reason why Danielle Smith won, by the way, at the AGM, by the way. And that's why she was chosen the leader of SCP, because there was an objective, clear objective of what things needs to be done. If we're deviating, I'm sorry?
It has to be grassroots. It can't be anything political for the movement. It has to be for the people, what they want. Absolutely.
Not only that, but it has to be concise. You can't just explain to me like what the province house is built and all those laws and everything. Again, we're talking about delivering the message, and the message has to be concise, because being concise can be repeated over and over and over and over and over and over and over. That's what we need to think. We need to focus on.
Right. Can't be front and center. For protecting everybody's freedom so they can practice their religions and be left alone is what has to be important, and what has to build this larger movement if you want to get over that line. So we got a lot of pitfalls, but either way, I just want to get back to, we're going to talk a lot about independence, I'm sure, in the next months and probably years to come here. It's going to grow, and we can do it, but we can really screw it up. And the first time we can screw it up is right now when we're getting out of the gates. So pick your battle. Right now, the battle is getting to the referendum, getting the ability to get to the referendum, and then moving from there, building that ground support to win that referendum, campaigning. So I'll finish this a little bit, yes, with a self-serving note in a way, but don't worry, I promise you, I don't make a heck of a lot out of books. But I've been at this for 20-some years, and that's why I did put, I see it's reversed on this, the Sovereigntist Handbook. I mean, this is an instructional book. This is
a great book.
A book talking about how to get to independence, not so much why. Michael Wagner wrote excellent books on the why, and there's some why in this book too. But it trains you to be the person who can build that support. This teaches how to operate within a political party. This teaches the basic talking points. How do you respond to somebody when they say, but you're landlocked? Yeah, I know. So Switzerland, how are they doing? Venezuela's got lots of coastline. How are they doing? Lots of those discussions. It's in there. And along with it, the steps, the plan. So guys, it's time. The West wants out. But the West has to do it right, or we're just going to keep spinning our wheels. So, keep the anger burning, keep the discontent happening, but focus it into a plausible plan for independence or we won't be getting anywhere. We got the chance, guys. We can do it. Let's do it carefully and let's do it right.
All righty. So that's the message. Unfortunately, James had to leave. So I just want to thank him for being with us tonight. And
always great to have his insight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So any closing remarks that we can apply or say after this chat that we have for and this is such a big subject right now. This is like these.
I'm going to be the capitalist, if you don't mind, in the conversation. And the
Go
reason
ahead.
I say that is because it comes down to a lot about the economics of a new country, right?
Mhm.
Because you can tug on your heartstrings, and I know there's certain groups that are saying it's got to be an emotional thing. That's basically what ended up losing the Quebec referendum. John Chrétien came that very last day before the referendum closed and said, and I'll do it really bad, Chrétien talking like this, where he had to say that you have to, do you really want to break up Canada? That's kind of the way it is. But we're not breaking up Canada. Canada broke up with us, is really what it comes down to. And what I want to say is about, some people have asked about this even in this chat, as well as in the past, so you're talking about how much money we can save by being our own country. And we're actually compiling a list, and we've already compiled a list based upon the CPP, the Canada Pension Plan versus an APP. So we're extrapolating a lot of those sorts of ideas. And people are saying, well, you're saying you'll get rid of a federal tax, but basically you'll end up just replacing it with an Alberta tax. Actually, if anything, right now, and again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, I'm not an economist, but the federal tax, let's say it's 20%, Alberta tax is 13%, that's like 33%, plus your municipal taxes, blah, blah, blah. The numbers that have been crunched so far is we could have a flat 10% tax in Alberta. That's it, 10%. There is no federal, there's no provincial, it's one tax, 10%, right? We would get rid of our GST because we're not doing a PST or anything like that. Alberta has been dead set against a PST. There would be no excise tax. We would have free. We would be able to transport stuff interprovincially, and because that's another thing that we're talking about is the whole elbows up or arms up, fingers up your butt, whatever you need to do to say that this is the way that it should be. No, we're going to say, if we're a country, we're going to be talking to our provinces. We're going to be, the landlocked idea. That's garbage because no matter what, it's a UN thing. It's a worldwide thing that you always have to have access to tidewater. If you don't think that's a thing, look at Europe. Look at any place in the Middle East that's not against the ocean. They need to be able to get their goods. We'd be in the exact same thing. So again, we wouldn't have carbon taxes per se, right? We wouldn't have, there's two types of carbon taxes. There's the one that you and I pay for gas and for whatever else, our home heating and all that. But there's also the carbon tax that the producers pay. And so we're just saying, you know what? We actually don't need that. If we tax as a flat 10% all the way through, we don't need to have all that other garbage. Then we've got the money, again, the equalization payments that go out to Ottawa, and then they trickle it back to us, right? Part of the way that they trickle it back is through the healthcare. So even though healthcare is actually a provincial jurisdiction, they give it back to us if we're being good doobies, right? Well, we're masters of our own destiny, so we'll be our own good doobies. So, get out of our lives. And the same thing with education. And again, pension. If people actually don't know how pension works, go to the Alberta First Pension.ca website, because I'm the guy that kind of put that together. And the pension itself, it lists off that really pension is a tax. I don't care how you say it, because if it was an actual pension that you were putting into, like a teacher's pension or your own RSP, you wouldn't be retiring with $700 every month. You would have thousands of dollars every month. And what I would like to say is that to give Alberta that opportunity in order to do their own pension. If we brought our own pension in here, and again, the numbers are all there, you can go through them. If we had our own pension plan here, like we would be the royal jewel of, and I hate using that term because I'm not a monarch, of the world. Like we would have the best pension plan ever. Best pension plan ever. And it really would be, because we would have, well, first of all, there's the transfer payments that we pay. We contribute $9 billion every year, and we get back, I think it's 6. If it's not 6, then it's 3. Either way, we over contribute. So if we had that extra, say, $3 billion every year, imagine what we could do with that. We could actually put it into pension. We could actually do a one-time payment to people that are retiring. We could do a higher amount. So instead of $700, everybody gets $2,000. I mean, $1 billion is ridiculous. I was in my past life, I actually headed up a training program for the Canadian military, and our budget was $3 billion with a B. That billion, we couldn't spend the money fast enough. You were making interest upon interest upon interest. We could not spend it fast enough. So 1 billion is a lot. 3, 20, even 100 billion. Because right now we're talking about the pension plan asset transfer. It's not an actual cash. The asset transfer would be over $600 billion.
Okay, so just to give people under perspective, because we're talking about pension stuff here.
Yeah.
The value of assets under management under the CPP is like 1.4 trillion, right?
Yeah.
But what they actually but what they actually have on their papers is like 600 billion.
Yeah.
Just half of that. So basically say that I'm loaning you money. Let's say I'm loaning you $1,000, but I physically have $500.
Well, and so without getting into too much of that, because again, I'm not an economist. It's like when you buy a house. Let's say back in the 90s, you buy a house for $100,000. That's totally possible, right? And now your house is worth $1 million. Well, then that's great. So your value has gone up 900%, right? So that's the book value of what the asset transfer would be. If they end up giving us asset transfer in terms of real estate, they would have to give us back the $600 million or $600 billion in actual appraised value, right? And again, you could get into whether or not that's plus or minus 10% and how it will be sold and all that kind of stuff. But either way, let's say they give us back 600 billion or 335 billion, I believe is the actual number on the website, 335 billion. Maybe it's only worth 290. Oh, boo-hoo, right? Anyways, I won't go into that. That's a different discussion. But I mean, it just shows that that's money that we've been giving to the federal government since 1966.
Isn't that bad?
Yeah.
I just want to show something that Benita brought me the other day, and I just wanted to put it down. The Alberta Conservative Association. You can expand on that, Benita, too. What is it?
Yes. Thank you, Max. I founded the Alberta Conservative Association earlier this year, and the purpose of the organization is to advance conservatism at all levels of government in all entities. So we're not just talking federal, provincial, and municipal, but also school boards and other organizations. It could even be a hall board or a library board. We need more conservatives serving on all of those boards. And so I'm here to officially announce that the Alberta Conservative Association is officially a supporter of the Alberta independence movement. And while we've been chatting, actually, I've created the Alberta Independence Movement Facebook page, and my name is on it. And I'm just feeling so inspired by Kerry and his messages, and of course, Dennis Modry and Jeevan and the other guests. Like, there are just so many people and different organizations supporting Alberta independence. There's multiple Facebook pages. So what I'd like to do with the Alberta Independence Movement Facebook page is put the initiatives, specifically the initiatives and events that the different groups are doing. So for example, Kerry with the Chris and Kerry show. It has lots of online events talking about Alberta independence. Max, you're getting into podcasts about Alberta independence. There's other people also doing stuff on Alberta independence. So let's try to make the Facebook page Alberta Independence Movement a one-stop shop. And so Alberta Conservative Association is one example of the supporters. I'm super excited about what's going to happen on May 13th, 14th, 15th, because as a grassroots person, I've decided I want to go door to door with this concept. And I've already, in a sense, designed a training program so that I can train people. I can train anyone who's never gone door to door in their lives. I'm going to train you. You're going to go through a training session. You're going to get a chance to practice some talking points and actually carry some of that stuff you just said. If I wasn't already sold on Alberta independence, you would have just sold me right there. You have all the talking points, Kerry, and I need some of those talking points in writing. And we'll train the people with the talking points. We'll get them going door to door. The door to door stuff is going to serve a double purpose because I'm planning to run for municipal council in the municipality as well in Westlock, May 13th, 14th, 15th. So we're going to do a training session. We're going to go door to door. It's going to support the Alberta independence movement and more. And so Max, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to share. I'm so excited. And I was reading emotions yesterday after the federal election, and I was personally actually at the event of a Conservative Party of Canada MP who was reelected. And the emotions in that room were basically, okay, we were okay. Of course, there was some disappointment about the outcome of the election. When I got online later, I read a lot of different emotions. There's anger, there's frustration, there's fear, there's hopelessness. There's all sorts of negative emotions right now. So what I'd like to see happen, and I think it's already happening, is people having these emotions are signing up at albertaprosperity.com. They're signing up. They're frustrated. They're scared. They're concerned. And they realize we need change and we couldn't get it federally. So let's make a different change in Alberta. And what I feel we need to do with all these people having these emotions is eventually the anger will wear off some. It'll subside some. We need to channel all of those emotions into excitement for this cause, because that's how we're going to win. We're not just going to win if we go out and we complain. That's not how we're going to win. We have to paint a picture of how things are better. And Kerry's done some of that, but things are going to be better under an independent Alberta, under a sovereign Alberta. And if we are excited about that concept of a better Alberta, well, then other people are going to get excited too. So we channel the emotion, the frustration into excitement, and that's what we sell. We sell the concept of a better Alberta. And as long as we're excited about it, they'll get excited about it. So let's not just do that like you and me, like the few of us. Let's do that with all our viewers. Let's get everybody excited, including the people who are still angry right now. Let's get you excited too.
Oh, yeah.
And become a part of this movement, because that's how we make the change. And that's how we win people over. We win by winning them over. And this concept is so strong and so solid that we can take what Kerry presented there. We can take some other advantages of Alberta independence, and we can present it in such a way that we can even persuade people who voted left. Because if we explain it right and we explain it in a simple manner, and we have that concept of excitement, that concept of fun, we can even sell them on this. Okay, we can do this. But it means that each and every person watching this broadcast, guess what? You've got work to do. You cannot be passive and just sit there and go, yeah, I support this concept. Oh, I'm going to share on social media. No, you have work to do, whether it's door knocking, whether it's donating, whether it's signing papers, getting other people to sign. There is work to be done. So I'm saying to people, don't be all talk. My number's on the screen, 780-349-0181. If you are serious about this, let's put you to work. Text Alberta Independence to me, and we're going door knocking together. I'm going to train you. Even if you've never done it in your life, I'm going to train you, and we're going to have fun because we're going to do it as a team. And then you can take what you learn from me and apply it to any community in Alberta, wherever you're from. So, Max, thanks again for putting on this broadcast. I'm so glad we got to have all these awesome guests. And I was happy to be your helper tonight and help organize things. And thanks for giving me an opportunity to share.
Mhm. On a closing remarks on my side, before we wrap this up,
Yeah.
What she said is 100% accurate in the sense that when I got the results from the election, well, I was okay. I wasn't like really like disappointed. Yeah, I was disappointed, but in the back of my head, I was expecting that anyways, a result like this. And I said during my stream yesterday, I was expecting a minority conservative government, nothing more than that. If we get less than that, I wouldn't be that disappointed. But the thing is that compared to the guys in Ontario or New Brunswick or whatever other place, they don't have the option. They don't have, at least not yet. I'd like to see them kicking in that direction because we got people from other provinces watching the show as well. I would like to see those provinces gaining power that were once held by the province. Like, for example, the Alberta pension plan. You can remove yourself from the Canadian pension plan. It allows you to do that. The documentation, the legislation is clear on that. So you can do it without any issues. So I think that right now we're going to start to see a lot of those provinces getting more power from the federal government to the point they are becoming more independent. And Alberta is going to lead on that. And that's kind of like when I got the results from the election, I was like, oh, that's awesome. The liberal guy won. Well, no, he stole the election. I was like, oh, that's awesome, because we in Alberta, we had this mindset of getting things ready. We're expecting that already in our heads. Like if Mark Carnage wins, go back to there's going to be an extra step, like a flowchart in programming. If condition fails, go to the other one. So that we're doing that right now. Yeah. So that's exactly what we're doing. I don't feel disappointed at all. However, the people who are net in, let's say, Ontario, who are conservatives as well, they saw the writing on the wall and they are stuck. And for them our job is kind of to empower them to do what we're doing in Alberta. So I see that what we're doing in Alberta as a model to export to other provinces as well. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of that's my closing remarks. That's how I see things right now. So I would like you guys to thank you very much for your time. It's been rolling down for about 2.5 hours. Yeah. That was amazing. So just in case you wonder, I'm going to take some of the portions of this podcast into social media. I'm going to cut little pieces, and they will be on the Freedom Canada social media accounts, particularly Rumble and X. That's where I'm mostly active. However, I see a lot of people on YouTube, which is kind of strange.
I saw that. That's great.
That's awesome. So feel free to come and join us. They're going to take some of the clips so you can share on social media, like 20-minute clips or 50-minute clips that you can share to your friends and people around you. And I'll be doing podcasts like this as well too in the near future as well too, when I have the people join me on and having it. And also one thing before wrapping up, I mean, Benita is doing that as well too. I'm doing that as a volunteer as well. This is the concept of grassroots. We don't get paid to do that. I mean, I could just go up and go outside and drive my car on the hand or something, right? We can have some fun. But I think that the message, the role, I think that the job we have ahead is too great to just lie down and play video games. I don't play video games, but you got the idea, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. And you know what? And I'm going to do a shameless plug, because honestly, we spend so much time doing this, Benita, Max, like everybody that's involved in the community, the APP. If you can, go sign up for APP, and likewise, if you can possibly donate, that would be great, or sign up for a membership. Same thing here. I mean, just go to freedomcalendar.net or contact Benita, or go to the Chris Kerry Show, and like $5. If you thought that this was great information, then please send that out, and that's all we're asking for. The price of less than the price of a coffee at a Starbucks, because I don't go to Starbucks anymore because they don't take cash. So for less than that, you can definitely help our initiative and keep us growing and going. And if anything, it pays for website fees and hosting and all that. That's kind of all I really care about, is if we can at least continue to do this without having to dig into my pocket, which I do anyways all the time. And even like, and Benita, I'm sure, like just the past election, how many forums or trips did you make with Arnold? And I mean, I was all over the map too. And it's gas is not cheap, although it could be.
I helped the Arnold Viersen campaign, the Saïd Ahmed campaign, the Kerry campaign.
Yeah.
I was at the Pierre Poilievre's big event near Edmonton. And I spend lots of money on gas and nobody's paying me. So if people want to make a donation, I welcome it. But I think the highest priority donation today is Max, because he's our host today.
That is true.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Max. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Max.
Yeah. And we'll do this like right now. Like right now, we use social media to leverage my technical skills so I can help other people as well. Too, right? So, and that's cool, right? So,
So the question, one of the last questions here, where's the legislature event being held? Is it kind of in the same
front steps? It's right on the front steps.
Right on the front steps. It's not on
we used to have a lot of rallies at the legislature. We'd be at the pony wall, but in this case, they've managed to book the front steps. So this is
good.
really
That's
exciting. We want everybody to bring Alberta flags and wear your Alberta shirts.
On that hockey stick.
Here is the best news about that. It's going to be 27 degrees.
For real.
Okay,
bring water.
I had to do that big pregnant pause just for effect. But yeah, like it's going to be so nice out. Just go enjoy the afternoon and get out and talk to people and share your excitement for independence. That's
I'm going to Alberta fans. Like you print out on cardstock and then you make it into a fan. We have little Alberta brand fans. What do you think of that new product idea?
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
I'm going to share I'm going to share on the map where it is so you can figure it out before moving. So this is
the ledge.
So this is the what's the ledge here? Okay, that's the Epcot substation. So must be here. Okay, gotcha. So basically what you need to do is essentially this is the legislative round. So where you're going is around here in this area. Okay. So this is where, so just to be clear,
the stairs are actually on the north side, are they not, Benita? Is that
my understanding is they're on the north side, like the main front steps, which is the ones on the north.
And overlooks the fountains or whatever it is, right?
And that road there is underground, so that you won't see that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a section that's on the ground. So basically, what you need to do is to go to the to this side. What I do most of my time is I go on 106th Street southbound, where there's no way you can go northbound. This is only one way, and then you continue ahead, and this is the way here. I'm just gonna try to find some pictures of that, so
that's
you can.
Yeah, that works.
Oh yeah, so you can kind of relate to everything is going. So this is 106th Street. Boop. So this is 106th. So normally
I parked the picker truck right there.
Oh, Alberta track. So it's up in here, and you go down there, and it's on the right, and there on the right. So this is the ledge over here, and the parking spot should be around here. So this is where it's going to happen, but this is not where we're going to park. This is where you're actually, So we've done, so I think a while ago we
closed. Keep driving there? Can you keep going there? I guess you can keep going.
No, you can't.
No, that's as far as it goes.
No, that's as far as you can. You have to go in there. But if you take transit, there is a transit station over there. That is the government center station on the Central line. If you are taking your car, there is a station. There is a parking somewhere over here. I don't know. I think it's over here for the car, just by this building here, right? Yeah, so this is parking on 107th Street. If you go northbound, so you have to go on 106 southbound in order to get to this section here. So this is where it is.
There you go. So that's where we'll be on Saturday. There you go. Perfect.
That's going to be amazing. So
Saturday 1 till 3? Is that what they've set it up as?
Yeah. Make sure to bring water, perhaps your camping chairs, and also lots of water, because it's going to be hot.
That's double the water.
Hey,
It's
What's
double
that?
the water.
that's double
Bring your water. Bring your
Okay,
camping chairs. Bring your water.
this is a trick that I learned from trades. Okay, guys, this is a trick that I learned from trades. Put your water, fill it half, and put it in the freezer overnight. Next thing in the morning, you pick that up and you fill it with water. Your water is going to stay cold
That's true.
for the entire day. You're not going to drink warm water. You're going to drink fresh water that will stay fresh and cold for the entire day. This is something that I learned from my dad. Every time I go to events like this, I always do that.
Yeah. There you go.
So,
Perfect. Yeah.
That's okay. Sounds good. Well, thanks, Ivan. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Max.
Thanks for the 371 people who stood up until now. That's amazing. And we'll do lives like this, and we'll talk about and that will be fantastic. And we'll see you on Saturday.
Excellent. Thank you. And again, thanks for everybody that was watching. And even if you only watched for 20 minutes, when this is done, go back and watch the rest of it at twice speed, that like I do when I watch my podcast.
Exactly, on the track.
All right.
Absolutely. Okay,
That's
sounds good.
idea.
Have a good
All right.
one, guys, and thanks for having us.
All right.
Thanks
Good
again,
night, guys.
Max. Good to see you, Kerry.
Okay. We'll
Bye,
see you.
everybody.
Benita. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Share this out. Everyone, please share this out.
Yeah, absolutely. Share this out.
Great broadcast, Max. You did a great job.